Do you think all free speech should be permissible? Should there not be any sort of limit on free speech? For instance, do you think it should be acceptable to shout fire in a crowded theatre in Britain?
See, no, I don't think there should be any limits to freedom of speech. And that example of shouting fire in a crowded theatre is my least favourite example that's always raised by people, because it's not correct, firstly. The full quote is to falsely shout fire in a crowded theatre, and people tend to leave out the word falsely, which I think is absolutely key. The other thing is that phrase comes from the US, of course, in a court ruling in 1917 against a socialist who was handing out leaflets opposed to the First World War. So what you had is this socialist guy who was against conscription of Americans for the First World War, and he was handing out leaflets, and the courts found that it was wrong of him to hand out these leaflets, and they used the phrase that free speech does not cover the right to falsely shout fire in a crowded theatre. So I'm always really interested when people use that example, because that example it comes from one of the great mistakes made by the US in terms of its First Amendment and in terms of freedom of speech, because it's my view that socialists and anyone else should be allowed to hand out anti-war leaflets on the streets, in the post, wherever they want to put them around. It's useful to remind people that even that phrase doesn't come from an actual instance of someone falsely shouting fire in a crowded theatre. It comes from someone who wanted to make a political expression, which was an anti-war political expression. My view is that people should be allowed to shout fire in a crowded theatre if we're going to go that far. I think the only limits on speech is when speech is used as a direct mechanism for the commission of a crime. So if you are inciting someone directly, like if I say to you right now, let's go outside and kill someone, my speech in that instance is party to a potential criminal offence. In my view, that is the only instance on which it's acceptable to punish someone for the words that they said. In every other instance, including even horrific things like racism, Holocaust denial, libel even, I really think we should err much more on the side of responding to those foul forms of speech with more speech, so that we can counter those ideas, counter those defamations, and use our own power of speech to say what we think is true.